How many lessons would it take to teach someone how to play the piano? How many lessons would it take to teach an English speaker how to speak French? How many lessons would it take for you to teach me how to do your job? This is by far the most frustrating question I get asked as a self-defense instructor. It is an incredibly common situation in which I will receive a phone call from somebody in which they ask the question, how many lessons is it going to take for me to be able to defend myself? And as a self-defense instructor, this is very frustrating on a couple different levels. The first and most notable and most frustrating to me is there's kind of an underlining question that's being asked, but not so directly. And it's, how long do I have to do this before I don't have to do it anymore? And that's a very frustrating question because there is not a point in which you stop practicing self-defense. Self-defense is more of a lifestyle. If you think about staying in shape, if you want to be healthy, you can't just eat one salad or eat a week of salads. It has to be that you eat properly all the time. If you want to stay strong, it's not that you go to the gym once and then you're strong forever. It's something that requires upkeep, that you have to go to the gym multiple times a week in order to maintain your strength. But other subject matters kind of work in the same fashion. About 10 years ago, I was able to speak enough French that I was able to go to Quebec and have very childish conversations with people. I was able to ask for breakfast, I was able to ask for pizza, and I at least knew enough French to tell the people in Quebec that I don't speak enough French to continue the conversation. But that was 10 years ago, and since then, I haven't spoken French to anyone. And as a result, I can't really speak French anymore. That skill has deteriorated to the point in which I don't really have it anymore. So yeah, I was pretty decent at French 10 years ago, but because I didn't maintain a study of French, it eventually left my mind. This same thing happens with self-defense. I don't think anyone would deny that every 10 years, your body is fairly different than it was 10 years prior. If you think about your hands change, your muscle mass changes, how brittle or strong your bones change, your flexibility changes. I mean, your thoughts change. Many people's political views change. Their situations change where they live in different parts of the world. Maybe you lived in a worse neighborhood, now you live in a better neighborhood, or vice versa. So if you think every 10 years, everything about you is different, something that you learned when you're 20 and works for you when you're 20 may not be the most effective way to do things when you're 30. And so the only way to actually reliably defend yourself is to treat it more as a lifestyle where going to self-defense class is something that you do regularly, maybe once a week or twice a week. I have some students who train 17 hours with me a week, and they're obviously extremely dedicated. But the idea that you're going to come in, learn a couple quick tricks, and then be good is not a very realistic one. All you have to do is ask yourself a really simple question. Did the instructor just take a small handful of classes before they started teaching? And that's no, they didn't. Every martial arts instructor, every self-defense instructor has devoted their life to this journey. And I've had rebuttals where people say, well, I'm not trying to become an excellent fighter. I just want to be able to get away from the bad guy. And I understand that. But there is also an element in that way of thinking that's kind of like the patient telling the doctor what ails them. Saying like, well, I think I have cancer. And the doctor says, no, you have a headache. No, I'm sure I have cancer because, I did my own research. The difficult part of somebody saying like, I just want to learn a couple quick tricks so I can get away from the bad guy is them assuming that the way in which you get away from a bad guy is to know a couple of quick tricks. And that's just not true. For sure, in the School of Self-Defense, we teach scenario-based self-defense. We teach, what do you do if someone grabs you in a particular way? What do you do if someone swings on you in a particular way? We teach you kind of a question and answer sort of thing, but that is more of a way to illustrate a strategy than it is to actually give you concrete answers. If someone threw the same punch at me 12 times, I would probably defend myself in 12 different ways. It's not that I would have just one uniform way to defend myself, because every single time there's going to be something slightly different. Even if they're throwing the same punch, I may be in a different position. The ground that I'm on may be different. The environment I am in may be different. The emotional, physical state that I'm in may be different. And each one of those will call for a slightly different response. And there's no way to like create an encyclopedic, list of all those responses. And if you did, it would take a lifetime to actually learn them. The truth is, self-defense is about developing good situational awareness, good conflict de-escalation, and with a fighting aspect, which is what most people come to me for, with the fighting aspect, it's about developing good reflexes. And good reflexes are something that take time to develop and take a lifetime to maintain. You may have good reflexes when you're in class and you've been studying, but if you are out of class for 6 months, your reflexes will go downhill. Recently, due to the pandemic, my state closed down for about 3 months. And when we came back, myself and all of my students, our reflexes had actually gotten worse. Even though we had trained on the bag and worked on grappling dummies and we had practiced at home, because we weren't actually interacting with each other, our reflexes had actually gotten worse. That a lot of our movements were more exaggerated than they used to be, and we were wasting a lot of time and energy. And that was just 3 months of us not interacting with each other. Picture what would happen if you took a self-defense course, got fairly decent, and then you didn't take part in it for 5 years. Well, you might not be able to do anything that you thought you were able to do. The scariest part of that, to me, is that in your mind you can still do it. You know what the right thing to do is, but you can't seem to make your body do it as easily as you were able to when you were in classes. The truth is that if you want to be able to protect yourself, if you want to be able to develop these skills, it doesn't just take time, it takes maintenance. Sure, maybe in 6 months you can learn enough basics to conceivably be able to beat somebody of your size in a fight. But if you stop there, that hill that you've climbed, you'll start sliding back down it. The idea is I want to get there and I want to maintain, and that is a lifestyle. And that comes to the second, more difficult part of that question, which is, what does it even mean to protect yourself? Going back to the original questions that I asked, how long does it take, or how many lessons does it take to teach someone to play the piano? Well, what does that mean? Does it mean how long does it take to teach them how to play scales? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Or how long does it teach them to play Flight of the Bumblebee or The Entertainer? Or how long does it take before they're able to write their own music? Or even how long does it take for them to be able to improvise music on the piano? Each one of those are very different skills, and when someone asks me how long does it take for me to be able to defend myself, they could be talking about anything from to learn to poke someone in the eye and run away, to how long does it take before there's literally no one who can beat me in a fight, which obviously that never actually happens. Each one of those are different things, and when you ask the question, how long does it take for me to be able to protect myself, I get immediately caught up with all those questions. Are you talking about poking someone in the eye and running? Probably not just that. Usually the question that people are asking me is, how long does it take before I can beat someone who is bigger, stronger, and more powerful than me? And that question, that is a doozy. Because when we look at that, we're looking at something that even some professional fighters don't do. There's weight classes in boxing for a reason. And it's because the larger opponents have such an advantage over the smaller opponents because they hit harder. There's weight classes in wrestling for a reason. It's because the larger opponents have more weight to pin down the smaller opponents. They don't require as much skill to beat them because their size and strength offers them distinct advantages. When we're talking about defending yourself against someone who's bigger, stronger, and more powerful than you, We aren't just talking about a couple cheap tricks. We're talking about becoming better than them at fighting, so much better than them that their advantages don't stack up against ours. The strategy that I employ is that if you have a certain skill level and they have certain advantages, I want my skill level to be so high that no matter what advantages they stack up against me, they're bigger than me, stronger than me, younger than me, it never stacks up to what the skill discrepancy between us. Because believe it or not, if you know just a little bit of martial arts, but they're bigger and stronger than you and younger than you, your martial arts actually gets supplanted by them. That you actually have to have so much skill that they can't stack that up against you. And sure, we have the cheap tricks, and that's a part of CDS, our main self-defense systems. Poking people in the eye, hitting them in the throats, headbutts, knees, elbows. We have all those. And what those serve to do is kind of help even the playing field a little bit. But ultimately, if you can't actually fight, if you don't actually have the reflexes to do the techniques with confidence and assurity, it's not likely you're going to just, magically do it correctly and get away. It takes time to develop these skills. And when you ask a self-defense instructor, how long do I have to take before I'm able to do this stuff, before I'm able to defend myself? It's effectively saying, how long until I can quit? And for someone who's devoted their entire life to the subject, it's a little bit insulting and very discouraging, because I walk into any self-defense education when I'm learning with the intent to try to become as good at the subject matter as possible. And when I teach people, the best way for me to teach them is to assume that they want to teach it. If I teach you in a way that I'm assuming you want to become a teacher in this, then I'm going to give you all the information you need. I'm going to let you understand everything about this and make you as good as I possibly can. When someone comes in and they say, I don't really want to do this, I just think that I should, it's a little frustrating, because ultimately, if you think self-defense is important, it needs to be a lifestyle. Like I said, just like eating well, staying in shape, practicing self-defense is a part of that process. But the cool thing is, it's not really hard in the sense of that's unpleasant. I will tell you this. In 25 years of studying martial arts, I have never regretted going to class. And talking to my students, neither have they. But I have definitely heard students who regretted quitting. That I've had people who disappeared for 6 months or a year and came back and say, I so regret skipping class or missing classes. The truth is, they never regret coming, but they do regret missing those classes. So our slogan at the School of Self-Defense is changing the perception of self-defense. That's what our slogan is. And the biggest perception I'd like to change is that there is no 3 easy lessons. There is no get good quick. And there's absolutely no quick tricks to get you out of there safely. It's about developing the genuine skill to the point in which the advantages your opponent have over you are nullified. And that takes time, and it takes maintenance. Now, I know that's really daunting, but if it sounds exciting, and it sounds like what you're looking for in the world of self-defense, and you live in my area, Indianapolis, I'd love for you to come and train with us. All the information to do that is in the description box down below or on our website, theschoolofselfdefense.com. And if you've reached the end of this video, you're clearly enjoying the content, so why don't you drop a subscribe and a like and share this with your friends so that we can help spread this different way of looking at self-defense as a lifestyle as opposed to a quick class that you take in college. So until next time, everybody, I'm Michael Valenti with the School of Self-Defense. Fight on.